Hey, welcome back to Cage by the Page, the podcast where we where literature leaps off the page and into lively discussions. So today I'm joined by Winona,
Hello.
Kalina.
Hi.
Yeah, so we were thinking like we'll get a new voice in here, kind of start talking about some interesting stuff with a fresh perspective. And this book is definitely interesting. We'll be reviewing I Survived Capitalism, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. I love the title, by the way. How do you guys feel about the title just off the bat?
I feel like it's very Madeline,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
What
just
exactly.
did we
like
ever
following.
hear about the T-shirt though? I feel like we never heard about the T-shirt.
Well, yeah, she is a fashion
Yeah.
person, so yeah, it kind of makes sense. So yeah, we're talking about I Survived Capitalism, and yeah, Madeline Pendleton, is the name of the author and also the
The
business owner.
fire last name. That last name is fire.
Pendleton, yeah, you like Pendleton?
Pendleton?
Yeah, I love Pendleton. It's very like
It feels very high
God.
class, like
Yeah.
English. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Although nothing,
No.
nothing about her life is anything close to that. So which we'll find out. She basically kind of is a TikTok superstar that turned into a massive business tycoon, sort of. Not really a tycoon because of the way her business is structured and stuff, but she came from a background of just struggling, living from paycheck to paycheck, and then yeah, turned it all around and is now a multimillionaire. And she's basically like, you know what, capitalism, it's a fucking joke, it's a crime against humanity. And she decided to wage war, I would say. Would you guys
Yeah.
agree? Yeah, wage a war.
Yeah.
um yeah, and it's basically a memoir
Mhm.
about Madeline's life, and very unique hardships. I mean, I could definitely relate to some of her life, but not the majority of her life. You know what I mean? And I definitely feel for her through the book. But yeah, she was raised by a punk dad and a goth mom, and she was facing homelessness and financial despair. Her story is a testament to the power of reimagining the rules of the game, and everyone is forced to play. We're all playing it right now. I am definitely a wage slave. I don't know which you guys. Yeah,
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. And
absolutely.
You guys out there, are you wage slaves?
I
Leave,
think
leave,
most
leave
of
it.
us are.
Leave it in the comments below about being wage slaves if you got this far. uh, so yeah, so her company is called Tunnel Vision, and yeah, it basically created it didn't create the four day a week work structure, but it definitely capitalized on it. And everybody's making the same amount of money, like a salary that your CEO makes. Who's ever heard of that in in life? It's got full benefits. People get company cars, they get company lunches. It's just and on top of that, yeah, it's rooted as an alternative to capitalism and about community care, which is sorely lacking in this country. Nobody cares about their community. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but the people that run the community, like are the big, like massive, yeah, thorns in our fucking sides. They don't care about the community. They'll fire you and hire you and fire you again.
Yeah,
um
there's a comment that a lot of people say that like your job will be posted before your obituary, and that's fucked to think about.
yeah, it's tragic. Especially Amazon. Amazon's running into that problem of like they fired so many people they have nobody else to hire. So it's
I
like,
didn't know that. I mean, I'm
yeah.
not surprised, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how bad it is. um
I
s-
mean, we have one of those here locally, like the big factory. It used to be like the greatest place to work in my small town.
yeah,
And then, they eventually fired everybody for, any reason. And now they're stuck with like a rotating, like people will get fired and 6 months later they have to rehire them because there's there's nobody else.
yeah, like and this is like the story of small town USA right now, where it's like nobody can get jobs really, locally especially. They have to travel out far, and on top of that, they get kind of like either the competition is too stiff in a big city, or the wages just don't keep up, with the inflation and the cost of like housing. Like even if you wanted to live close by, you're pretty shit out of luck because because everybody wants to pay you the literal bottom dollar that they can pay you, because the CEO has to collect 18, 20 times the amount of any lowly level employee, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's fucking gross. And yeah, Madeline basically, is like, fuck that shit. I'm punk. I'm too punk for that. And
So, but the way that her structure works is that everybody has the same daily take home rate.
mhm,
So whether you work 1 day or 4 days, it doesn't matter, that it will be the same amount
mhm,
for that day,
mhm,
which I think is really interesting. And then she says, what I found interesting about this structure is that everybody says, oh, you want to work harder to make more money, right? That's the reason that people work hard. But she, like, her opinion is that people want to work hard because they give a shit, right?
yeah,
Like, her opinion is that people work hard because A, they need the money, and B, because they give a shit
yeah,
about her company. And the reason that they give a shit is because if the company does well, everybody in the company does well. It's not
right,
just about her doing well. Like she said, since the pandemic has like slowed down and people have been returning to work, but people aren't buying the way that they were in 2020 and 2021, that they've taken away certain benefits on a democratic basis, right? They did it because they were like, look, we're going to have to scale back because this is the money that's coming in. This is how it's going to look differently.
mhm,
And all of these people want to meet their quotas, whatever their quotas are for their jobs,
right,
because because it helps them, because it supports them,
yeah,
because it keeps them with, healthcare, with company cars, with, profit sharing of some realm, which I
right.
think is really interesting. And you do not see companies like that anymore.
No, or
Or
just
ever, really.
yeah, yes, the financial transparency of
Hmm.
of the company. Oh, of how well they're doing and how bad they're doing, and letting all the employees in on it and know exactly where you are, so you're not like sweating bullets, like being like, am I fucking next? Because there was a point in the book where she was working for that jewelry company, where she was like, is today the day I get fired? Like she got the director's like positioner, that
Yeah.
had been left open because the director was like, this asshole, this guy is such a misogynist pig that I cannot. He is a sexual harassing deviant, and I can't anymore. So she left, but she was an amazing director, an amazing employee, like the best you could ever have, and fought for the employees under her, especially Madeline. And she knew that Madeline could, step up to the task and stuff, but it's like, this guy is cutting people out, important people like Madeline in the company, just so he could get a fucking sports car. What the fuck? And then brag about it. And then
Yeah.
brag about that in some fucking boardroom meeting or whatever he's having. Jerk off, Like that's not human. It's like, it's just gross. It's an excessive greed, that is just like, it rots the soul. And you know what? I hope you fucking crash in your fucking sports car, bro.
Yeah.
you know so yeah, you definitely do not see that kind of behavior coming from a CEO. Or, I guess she's not a CEO. She doesn't even want to own the company technically, like and
Oh,
she's told the employees, hey, at some point you have to make this like an actual co-op, because I'm we can't, it's not just gonna be me. She's been trying to give away the title of like president or whatever to anybody else in the company, and nobody wants to fucking take it. So, which is also very interesting. How would you guys take it? If you worked at Madeline's company and Madeline came to you, here you go. Would you take it?
Absolutely not. But I'm more of a person that just like wants to come in, do my job, and go home. And being the boss does not, like, there's so much more weight to it than
Hmm.
just showing up, doing your job, and going home.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that. And I hate the idea that we all have to aspire to be business owners in capitalism. I just hate that idea because I don't want to be a business owner. I genuinely would much rather get paid a decent living wage where I can like have some luxury and live a decent life
Hmm.
and not have to worry about owning a company. Though I will say that like her trying to pass it off is not her actually trying to pass it off. It's her trying to create a co-op, but everybody's
Hmm.
like,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
no,
want
no.
this
There,
kind of
there, there,
power kind of
there,
thing.
there was a thing in there where it was like, I can't remember what the specific thing was, but it was something where she was trying to. It wasn't a co-op yet. This was before the
Right.
idea of the co-op, but
Well, because she didn't want to be the like
y-
she
y-
doesn't want to be the leader.
right. She doesn't want to be the leader. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a certain type of person to want to be like the overarching mastermind of everything, but everybody kind of needs you still kind of need a leadership role to fill, delegation of certain roles, certain responsibilities. Like even with the Democratic vote in her company, she has delegates for some of the smaller Democratic votes,
Yeah.
while the big picture, everybody gets a actual like vote. Like, hey, we're not turning this business into like I don't know, a distillery or something tomorrow or something.
Right.
So
She basically says that like some people don't want to know about all of the financial workings of the company. And
yes,
it's because it makes them anxious or
right.
it's just something that they don't want to know about. And those are people that get delegates.
And here's another cool thing. If you're having an off day, a mental health day, and you don't want to come in, you don't have to come in. You know why? Because you having a bad day and coming in, forcing yourself to come in, would then bring down the rest of the people around you, and create this kind of like bad atmosphere. While if you take a day just for yourself, or a week or a month, which has happened at her
Yeah.
company, you're able to recuperate. Yes, it will be felt that you're not there, and like if you need someone to take your workload and stuff, that could be discussed and arranged and stuff. But overall, everybody's productivity is going to still stay high even
Yeah.
with that. So that's another big thing that you do not, and that's all paid. It's all paid, baby. Yeah, we don't get that. I
Could
don't.
you imagine could you imagine, just how much happier you would be
Yeah.
if you knew that you didn't have to, like, you were just I mean, as somebody with, like, mental health issues,
Hmm.
having the luxury of knowing that I could take a day off or a week off,
Hmm.
like, would be life-changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or you. Oh, me and you have kid, and we have a kid.
Yeah.
Not together. We just have kids. I have a kid. She has a kid, and so like anything that goes wrong with our children, we need to get up and go. But I'm an hourly employee, so obviously I lose my hour unless I take my PTO. But then I lose my PTO. you know,
Yeah.
it's always an unfair trade off. Or the fact that I don't have sick days. So if I have 102 and I could still stand up, then I have to like force myself to go. Otherwise, well, I take a PTO day that was meant for vacation or whatever I wanted to fucking do on PTO. Now I'm holed up in bed. It's like, yeah, it sucks. It sucks. I definitely restructuring of society needs to happen. We're all communists here. No, yeah, I don't
Well,
know. Well,
well,
well, maybe you
I just
know.
think that like when you aren't feeling your greatest, right? And you go into work, are you performing at
No.
the same level that you like normally do?
Mm-mm.
No, of course not. So why do you even want me there if I'm just gonna sit there
No.
and first of all probably be a lazy slump? And when you ask me a question, all you're gonna do is piss me off because I'm tired,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Why do you want me there? Why do you want me there just to bitch at people? Because that's what I'm gonna end up doing. If I don't feel good, I'm gonna be mad at everybody around me.
Right. Yeah.
and
I'm
oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. Keep going. No.
Um, there's also like I work in a building, so if I'm sick, I'm then forced to either decide if I'm going to go in and risk getting everybody else sick or losing out on pay and or losing PTO.
Yeah.
And it I get upset when people come in to work sick because I've got a terrible immune system and I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm now going to suffer
Yeah.
because the company doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only do they not care, they'll also make you feel bad about it, a lot of the times. Like that they'll make it worse by kicking you
Yeah.
when you're down.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, I've noticed that you're blah blah blah, and we'll have to look into that, or or we'll have to restructure blah blah blah, and then fire you."
Yeah.
You get a pink slip. So, I mean, you don't get pink slips anymore, but if you did, you would. So yeah, so basically, the book kind of delves more into Madeline's like upbringing, with her father and mother being kind of opposites. Like the mother was really super more on top of things when it came to money, but then there was some sketchy stuff also that she opened up a credit line or whatever under Madeline's name at some point. So that was a thing. Um, yeah, go ahead.
I think that's pretty common as far as like opening credit for children, especially like um, I would say middle class,
Hmm.
because it does help them in the long run.
Yeah.
But my question would be, did Madeline's mom opening a credit card in her name help Madeline or hurt Madeline? Because we know she says that her mom was severely in debt and just lived off of that while also caring about her credit score. So I wonder,
Well, also Madeline was never on top, up until the very end there. She was in constant financial trouble. So I would not say it had helped her until she figured out her own shit and helped herself.
yeah, but like helped her as far as like her credit score, because she
It
does say that
yeah.
she has like a good credit score,
Mm.
and has kind of always had a good credit score. So
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of left a little bit ambiguous. It was just more of a offhand remark that she made about her mother doing that. No such remarks about her father because he never had money, and he might have been a drug dealer at some point. So that
But
was
who knows?
yeah,
maybe
but
possibly.
he was a really good guy and a good father. And like yeah, it's toward the end of the book, you kind of learn a little more about her father, kind of in terms of like he always financially struggled because of the kind of the cog of capitalism constantly churning away and crushing his fucking soul. But he was a punk rock guy, so but Madeline always thought, oh, he was rebelling, against capitalism because he had morals about it or what. No, no. He just it's just a fucked system, and people need to wake up and rebel against it because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So yeah. Do you guys have comments about either of her parents or?
I just think like growing up poor,
Mhm.
you do sketchy shit sometimes to get by. And like honestly, I don't blame people for doing sketchy shit to get by because they wouldn't have to do it if they weren't in this situation. Um like my mom did similar shit to my sister and it screwed her over.
Like
Um
credit, like taking credit and stuff?
she opened up an electric bill in my sister's name when she was like 7 years old.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But again, this is what a lot of like I would say for middle class families, what's really interesting about this is that if you break it down into a class system, right? Upper class families are going to create like wealth for their kids, right? They're going to put companies in their names. They're going to create businesses in their names. They're going to have like trust funds in their kids' names. Middle class Americans are going to open up credit cards to try and create credit history for their kids. Lower class families are going to open up accounts in their kid's name, run them up, and then not tell them about it.
Yeah. Which is generally what happens, and it seemed like Madeline did get away with not having that aspect happen to her by her mother. But that is probably the worst thing you could probably do to your kid when they turn 18 and are trying to like I don't know, like get out and start a life at college or something, or get a loan for a car. And it's like, oh, my credit score is like in the low 500s.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
only possibility that you have is to be like, well, I was like 6 when this happened, so this is clearly fraud.
Yeah. But it's fraud again because of your parents, which is
Right,
just
which means that
so worse.
you might have to report it as fraud, which could get your parents in a shit ton of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, which it could be. So if you have a good relationship, then you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like,
Mhm.
do you help yourself or do you help your parents?
Right.
Yeah. So, going forward, eventually her father can't really take care of her anymore. And so she kind of just has to get a work permit from school and just goes out and gets her own kind of job at 14. I think that's when she started, which is pretty, great. Like, I mean, amazing in that she had that drive to do it. Like, I don't know how many 14-year-olds would want to, you know, do that, especially today. Well, everybody's on TikTok now for sure. So this was more in the early 2000s where, there was no social media, at least not yet. So, do you have any comments about her jobs or anything that she kind of, got through? I think it was concessions and working at Target, like a photo thing. Like,
When she was,
yeah, I was gonna add, if you have your own experience as like a first job, this would be a good time to talk about that too.
she talks about how she was telling the kid at school that she was going to get a job at Burger King, and he suggests stealing cars
Yeah,
because it's more lucrative.
yeah,
Which I think really shows um, the area that she grew up in,
yeah.
that it was so normal for stealing cars to be a first job.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, GTA right there. Yeah. Oh, and she grew up in Fresno, California, which is like, one of the meth capitals of California, I guess. Well, one of, because there's more than one. Unfortunately, meth is very popular over there. Um, but the book does discuss a little bit about how in the 80s and 90s, when she grew up, she never saw it that way, until she got out and took a look back.
Yeah.
She, if anything, if she heard that Fresno was on the what is it, like on a documentary or whatever, she was like, oh yeah, that's the gas station I used to go to, or whatever.
and
But they're talking, yeah, yeah,
everybody looked at her with pity.
yeah, exactly. It was not like a fun place to report that you're from. Unfortunately, around other people, but it really builds character. Those kinds of places build character.
Yeah.
And Madeline has a ton of character, especially throughout this entire book. Like, yes, she starts out knowing nothing and then completely changing the entire system, a paradigm shift, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, and that's amazing, from someone coming from that kind of background, to doing that is just, yeah, it's mind-blowing. Do you guys have any experience with Fresno?
No, I've never
No.
been to the East Coast besides Arizona.
Well, like, I mean, we yeah, but the East Coast has plenty of Fresnos, you know what I mean, like,
I mean, I kind of live in one.
oh, well, there you go. Yeah, okay, yeah, there you go. Exactly. But even like growing up, like in Jersey, which is where I grew up, or well, Winona as well.
Yeah.
You have like Newark and what is it?
Camden, Patterson.
Camden, Patterson, right? All run
Yeah.
down, all really sketch. You don't want to be walking around at night. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Patterson for a short period of time. I lived in Trenton, which also had a for something that just popped into my head. Have you guys heard of the the idea of poverty tourism?
I have
Well,
not, but that sounds fucking gross.
it is fucking gross. So like people will go into these places to try to see how like the other half lives, kind of thing. Like they'll go into like your Newark, your Patterson, your Trenton, whatever, and like take
Mm.
pictures of homeless people and like they'll post videos of people like doing drugs and it's such a
Oh,
gross.
oh no, 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 no. I know what you're talking about because there's one like TikTok asshole that does it for a living.
And I hate it. It grosses me the fuck out every single time I see a video where people like I want to feel good about the fact that like people will go up to homeless people and give them money, right? Like I want that to be a positive thing, but it never is because why are you shoving a camera in this person's face? Why are you making it seem like you're doing this positive thing? Whereas like sure, maybe the money in the moment is positive, but also you're posting them on the internet in their most vulnerable state.
Yeah. And
It's
and
gross.
yeah, exploitative.
Yeah.
That's really the only way. There's a lot of exploitation happening.
Yeah. I mean, that's what capitalism is at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
because those video makers are making money off the fact that they're exploiting people who are living on the street who have no other choices.
there
Yeah.
was a photographer who went, I think it was someplace in California where it was just completely, you know, riddled with drugs and took photos. And I remember seeing them posted and being like, just the amount of just like the space there between like normal people and like the thoughts are coming. Just like the way people react to those situations
Hmm.
Mhm.
and like how much I'm sure she made loads of money from it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but at what point? Like for why?
Mhm.
Yeah. And when Madeline was talking about how they would do documentaries about Fresno, she was like, "Oh, look, this is the town I grew up in." Meanwhile, she's watching it, and these people are treating people that she grew up with. The guy on
Yeah.
the corner that maybe gave her a piece of candy or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Treating those people like they're circus freaks.
Yeah. And like I was saying before about Madeline's character, now that she's a multimillionaire, has a house, spoiler alert, she's successful, sorry. uh has a house, has, yeah, a lot in her life now compared to where she came from. She still talks to those kinds of people where she lives. She
Yeah,
still wants to build a community with those people, and feels at home being there. And if anybody ever fucking calls her, from some corporation being like, "Hey, I want to buy your house for, 10x whatever it's worth right now," she promptly hangs up the fucking phone because those people don't care.
yeah,
Your house is not a fucking investment. It's an investment for your future, for your family's future, for that kind of stuff. Yes, but it's not for fucking money. It's a roof over your head. This is where your kid is going to grow up, This is where
yeah,
you make memories. Like it's not about the money. Fuck the money
right.
Yeah,
sometimes.
and the community that she built in the town that she lives in. She talks about how she's made friends with people at the corner stores, um, even though I think she said that they were kind of like nervous about like gentrification.
Mhm.
But she's really great at building community where she goes.
Mhm.
And I think that stems from her teenage years,
Yeah.
having no choice but to rely on the people around her.
Yeah. Yeah, she was always, when she was a teenager, she would kind of like, I guess, run away from home from her mother because a little bit overbearing. The stepfather was meh. And so she would go into those Fresno, Tower District, which has uh like, I don't know, street urchin kids basically that kind of steal food like pizza from like the back of the or like when the pizza guy isn't looking, they'll come in and take leftovers and feed themselves with that. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of stuff that molded her character, and those people were so important in her life because they helped her survive like really hard
Yeah.
times, where people that are trust fund babies that
Hmm.
have everything given to them and they call themselves self-made. They are not self-made. That is not self-made. You are a fucking joke. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like spits in the face of people like Madeline. So I totally understand her, like her passion when she even like, toward the end of the book, she's at like a cocktail party or whatever. And like some fucking asshole that owns a landscaping business comes in and is basically like, I do so much work and nobody else can do what I do. And she asks him like, what do you do? What exactly do you do? I mean, do you clip the lawn? Do you fucking do you do even any of the managerial stuff? No, I have a lot of time on my hands. I just come in there and look mad, and they all have to, then they'll get to work if I'm there to make them you know and she's like, so do you believe that you deserve a salary of like, 60 times whatever those people are, which is minimum wage? Of course he would pay minimum wage for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, no, he doesn't. Those people are what make your business run. Without
Yeah.
those people, you have no business. You're a dumbass.
Yeah.
You know?
And to sit there and say like, oh, it'll always come down to business owners being like, well, we took the risk. No, you didn't.
No.
If you incorporated your business, there's no risk.
Yeah.
If you incorporated your business, there is no risk.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking a loan from your business every single time you need to pay a bill for yourself, maybe that's your problem, but that's not you taking a risk for the business.
No,
That's you taking a risk for yourself.
Yeah.
Just not the same thing.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying with Madeline's character. Now that she has it, and struggled to get there, and then figured out, I mean, a lot of the stuff that Madeline talks about, I was aware of, but I'm also older too, so I kind of had to go through a lot of some of it myself to get to the point where I understand how to save money and invest money when it's right, and and all of that. But I would say that this should be like fucking required reading in high school or something, because you do not get those kinds of classes in school. Yes, I mean sometimes you get like an accounting or finance class. It's maybe like an extra credit thing, but it's not a requirement. And a lot of kids don't know better, and their
Well,
parents don't know better either.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I grew up very poor for, the first part of my life, and my mother, my biological mother to this day still doesn't understand money. And like I've had to, learn a lot of it on my own and
Mhm.
then be like, "Hey, like what are you doing? Why are you doing that?" And it's because there's so many, especially I think for lower class, there's such nobody knows. You can go back generations upon generations and nobody knows what they're doing. They just lived in a different time where, one person working could feed the whole family and buy a house
Right.
Mhm.
and send their kids to college. And so because there was no real understanding of finances, it then gets passed on of ignorance to finances.
And also that's a great point about how it was different back then, because a lot of people that are older from back then don't understand how different, because they've let it. They are the people that have created this monster of a broken situation that we have now. It kept on, the pressure kept building. They're the ones that allowed for-profit colleges to rape kids out of a fucking future because they have to repay debts that are crippling, you
And then
know?
continuously told us that like a college degree is the only way. A
Right.
college degree is the only way to
Right.
get
Because
far in life.
that's how we did it, you
I
know?
mean, if you grew up poor enough, nobody in your family had college degrees.
Well, no, but what I definitely do not come from a background of any college degrees. That's for fucking sure, including this guy right here. I was smart enough to avoid. One of my first lessons was do not get into debt. Do not get into debt. Your parents, look at them. That was it.
We actually only have one of us here with a college degree.
Yes, by the way, and
Love
it's
that.
later in life.
Yeah.
more financially stable than ever before, not at 18,
No.
okay? And completely went in knowing what you needed to do
Yep.
rather than going for a for-profit college that's like 100K or 200K or whatever the fuck, or dorming and all that, because there's a lot of like bullshit traps of like, and you can sit down and hammer it out with an advisor, but $27,000, which is what Madeline paid, 27,000 is still a lot of fucking money.
Yep. Hmm.
And she said that she couldn't even grasp what $27,000 was. Like
Mhm.
she didn't know going
No.
into it.
Yeah, and like, don't get me wrong, I have a ton of student debt and it sucks, but I would have had about $20,000 more if I
Mhm.
didn't do what I did, which was I went to school online and I got a lot of my prerequisite classes done through something called Sophia Learning. A great sponsor if we could ever get something like that going. But
Yeah.
it's like $99 a month. It might have gone up since I did it, but it was $99 a month when I did it. And you could do as many classes in that month as you can get done. And so if you have ADHD and want to hyperfixate on the class for 6 hours, you possibly could finish it. And that's what I did for the vast majority of my credits. And I did 11 classes through that program. And I think I did it in a total of 4 or 5 months. So it was a total of like either $400 to $500, but the classes through my college were $1,600 a piece.
Yeah.
So it was $400 to $500 to get through 11 classes that would have costed me $16,000 to do through the college.
Crazy. But that's
Yeah.
the thing, right? It's like it goes back to the story that Madeline has in the book of the one father feeding his family with cheeseburgers from McDonald's for 33 cents on the dollar. When they had the promotion. That's the thing. You were just saying that, it was 99 bucks a month, but now it might be more. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how it is, right? They'll constantly turn up that pressure of like, it'll be a little more. Your free French fry Fridays or whatever are going to
Yeah.
turn into a buck French fry and then $2 and then $3. But you know what's not going to go up? How much you're making.
Yeah.
That's not going to go up.
And then they tell you that, we have to keep switching jobs every 2 years. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to do
No.
that. I
I
hate the idea of that.
I so I have switched jobs about every year and a half um for the last 5 years.
Hmm.
Dang.
Just sidestepping and hoping for more and learning what I can. But now I'm almost 30 and haven't held a job longer than 2 years because I see, in the last 5 years alone, wages have changed. So, like, the cost of living has changed so much, and certain places will try to keep up with that, but the job that I'm at is not. So I leave, and like, it's a
Let,
nightmare.
let me ask you. One of like so another part of this book is that at the end of every chapter she does like how to survive capitalism skill, you know.
Yeah.
So one of the skills for jobs is you go to do your interviews, get a price, also negotiate a very fair price in for the area of what you're doing, and get the max out of that, and then bring it back to the previous employer. You ever do that? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, and that it does work, but it only gets you so far.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And I've
even
been
even with her, I think that she never got the highest value that, it was just a negotiation tactic that she was
yeah,
just using. Yeah.
and um, like a lot of the manufacturing I did was local business, small companies
Right.
whose favorite thing was it's just not in the budget.
Mm!
And people love to say
Ooh.
how great small businesses are, but Madeline talks about it that they can be just as shitty as big corporations, and the small business owners can be just as greedy
Hmm.
but on a smaller scale.
Well, and it's even worse, right? Because they can guilt you. They can they you're like family. I'm
Hmm.
sure people have heard that at least
Yeah.
once if you've worked for a small business. Yeah, in the worst way possible, you're like family. You have to deal with this fucking asshole's mood swings.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whatever is their problem, it's your problem today, you know? So yeah, that's definitely a thing that Madeline has experienced. Also the shadiness, 1099 versus a W2. Am I right? Am I right, people?
You are right.
Yeah. Okay, good. Which is a bullshit trick. 1099 work is fine if you're going into it knowing what's at stake
Yeah.
because the government takes a pound of fucking flesh if you're a 1099 worker. They just do. And yes, you could do the expenses shit and all of that, but you also have to bring out an economics tax book to figure out how you can play it. In fact, I actually learned a little thing that I never knew, and I don't think anybody else ever put this down on my taxes up until this point. Well, it doesn't work anymore, supposedly, but you can write off $250 in donations without a fucking receipt on every single, like, yes, on every single, like, for all your taxes, you could have at least gotten 250 bucks. Checked off donations and no receipts. They didn't even care about receipts. That no longer works this tax cycle.
Yeah,
So
Mm.
didn't they raise that like to
no,
what it
no,
no?
no, they got rid of it. They don't want you they don't care about your donations.
Hmm.
So, but that was a thing forever that I didn't know about until yesterday, where I
I
got
mean, they
informed
don't
about it.
I would say they don't care for like regular people's
Yeah,
donations,
right, right,
right?
right,
Because
right.
big corporations donate all the time. They have people, all the time. Do you want to round up to support
Yes, but
X thing? And that,
yeah,
that's
but
all for
yeah, but
tax breaks.
what I was thinking was like when you're like you'll never have enough in donations to ever touch whatever a
Yeah.
big corporation is doing. Like St.
Yeah,
Jude's
exactly.
$100,000 yesterday. You know what I mean? It's like not that's not something you're gonna ever pull out of your pocketbook to do, unfortunately. Or maybe you will. I'm not saying
I
you
will
can't.
say,
There's hope.
that if you do choose to become a 1099 employee, my biggest recommendation is to always put 30% away. Because I work 1099 now, and I put 30% away. And at the end of it, if I have money left over, the other thing is that when you file your taxes as a 1099, you kind of have to be a little strategic about it because you have two options. You can take all of your expenses from being a 1099 and contractor, take all of your expenses and reduce the amount you're going to pay in taxes, and sure, it could be a good option. However, if you're going to buy a house, don't do it.
Yeah.
Take the expenses that you need to take, but pay the taxes, because then it looks like you make significantly more, which means when you go in to buy a house, you can say, this is what I actually made. Because whatever you reduce your salary to is what your mortgage broker, your mortgage underwriter is going to say you make. So if you reduce, let's say $60,000, you reduce 20,000 of that through expenses. All right, you don't actually make 60,000, you make 40,000, which can screw you over in that situation. So you have to kind of be a little bit strategic with it. And I would say a CPA is worth it because you don't know the tax code. No one knows the tax code.
No.
I mean, and that was all done on purpose. A
Yeah.
lot of other countries, the government knows what you made and how much they took,
Yeah.
but I think, who was it? One of the big like tax refund guys made
TurboTax.
it TurboTax, made themselves the middleman to make it more difficult and for them to then earn their bread from it.
Yeah, it started with H&R Block. That was the first one that did it, and then it continued to balloon from there. So, and all of these places have been sued, like class action sued,
Mhm.
so many times. So like just every 3 years or so, look up a class action suit against TurboTax and make $120 because
Yeah,
that's what continues to happen.
a couple of bucks
They
here and there.
continue to get sued.
Yeah. And unfortunately, but there are countries that do it way better. There are socialist democracies, in fact, such as I believe Sweden. They just send you a receipt. Here's what we owe you.
Yeah.
Have a nice day. That's it. They don't need anything from you because, like you said, they know what you make because it's reported. That's it. You don't need to like fucking, I don't know, pull it out of, yeah, exactly. Get your box of receipts or something and figure out, oh, what can I deduct this today? My gas from January 1st of last fucking year. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's fucking ridiculous. But that's another thing in this book where it talks about budgeting and watching your money and making sure you kind of are on top of what's going in and what's going out and moving money into safe, savings accounts separated from everything else so you don't like start just throwing money away. uh Bag your lunch, guys, don't go out. So yeah, so eventually, Madeline does meet a pretty good boss, an employer, and takes a lot from that person, Tony, I believe her name was, fashion photographer. And Madeline, gets out of school, gets her degree in fashion. But it's one of those, like, she couldn't really use it really realistically at the time because it was like the 2008 recession and everybody was just fired. So that's kind of, yeah, the 2008 recession was pretty bad, guys. I don't know if the housing market, did that affect you guys in any way? I mean, you guys, I know you came from like really shitty backgrounds, so.
So for me, I was adopted. So I went from like really poor and then into the foster system and then adopted to a middle class family,
Mm,
who was who's very comfortable, which
very comfortable.
as Madeline says, is just means there's excess. You're not,
Hmm.
but you're not the mega rich,
Right.
Yeah.
but you can live. But as far as it affecting me, I didn't really notice because my parents were always really frugal. But I did notice that we went from going to a sit down restaurant for lunch
Mm.
to McDonald's.
No,
So
okay.
there was, but as I mean, I was in eighth grade, so
Right, right, right,
I didn't actually notice it at the time.
right. How about you, Win?
So I grew up very poor all the way up until I mean, honestly, somewhat recently, but
Yeah,
grew up pretty poor.
yeah.
So obviously we didn't have a house, but it wasn't just housing that took a crash in 2008. I would say that like most people were not making what they should have been making at the time to even like keep up with inflation. But we were on food stamps, and we were on TANF. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
Yeah, but and by the way, nothing wrong with taking it. Take it
No,
when you need it. Take it when you need it. Take anything and everything they fucking give.
yeah, if it's something that your family qualifies for, it is a social program that we all pay into. So
Exactly.
just take it.
Yeah.
Because if not, guess where that money's going?
Yeah.
Back
Well,
to the government for
yeah.
like what? What
Back
are
to
they
the
doing with it?
military.
What are
Yeah.
they? Yeah, exactly. How many potholes do you have in your street? That's what I gotta
Yeah.
say.
And
Definitely
and
not
how
going
many
to the road.
rockets do we have bombing other people and making big fucking potholes in, you know?
Ridiculous. But anyway, so in 2008, my family was always really poor, and we actually got a reduction in pretty much all of our benefits in 2008
That's crazy.
because, yeah. So I think at one point, so there was three of us living in the house, and at one point we were getting up to, I think it was like $600 a month in food stamps, which was the most we had ever gotten. And this was right as Obama took office and after the recession hit, which was not far after Obama took office.
Mhm.
Um, we fell down, and mind you, my mom was not keeping a very steady job at the time. My mom like really struggled with her mental health to like
Mhm.
stay in her job.
Yeah.
And we fell down to, I think it was like $220 a month for 3 people.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
which I can't even imagine trying to feed 3 people, 2 of which were like young, we were not teenagers yet, but we were preteens for $220 a month. And I just remember us, reverting to rice and beans, because rice and beans is quite literally the perfect food for poverty.
Yeah, and Madeline had basically said lentils, rice and beans, basically at some points
I
in her
mean,
life.
it really is the perfect like poverty food. I remember having a lot of ramen in my house.
Yep, ramen.
A lot of those like pasta sides. Do you
Mhm.
guys remember those, of like Knorr pasta sides?
Mhm.
My
Those are
family had a
still
lot.
Yeah,
they're
I
still a
I
staple.
yeah, I still buy them all the fucking time.
But at the time, we would go to Aldi, or we would go to this place called, what was it called?
In Jersey, Save a Lot,
No, it was a weird one. Price Right. It was called
Price Right.
Price Right.
Okay.
And it was like all the food was getting close to expiring.
Yeah,
And
manager specials. Manager specials. Love
yeah,
manager specials. Yeah.
so you could get it all for a lot cheaper because everything was like kind of close to expiring. Now, I wouldn't say to ever buy produce from these places. Ever. Do not buy fresh produce from these places.
Yeah, it's not fresh.
But like anything canned, frozen, things
Yep.
like that, that's all fine. But yeah, we would get those pasta sides. They were like the store brand for like 59 cents.
Okay. So I'll let you know that even to this day, I go to those places. I have one in
Yeah, I mean,
I have one in my town called Caswell's, and I bought cereal for myself. That is quite expired. It's cereal though, it's
It's just
boxed.
listen, expiration dates are just a suggestion on a lot of
Exactly.
food. That's how I grew up.
Yeah.
It's
And
still a thing.
And canned is good. No air touches it, so I don't even care if it's a couple of years. All right. And frozen, that too. You can keep shit at least a year over. I would
Dave's
say
gonna get
maybe.
botulism.
No, I'm not gonna get botulism, guys. Come on. Come on. But no, but seriously, but this is
Yeah,
what you do, right? You kind of
yeah,
you have to find ways to cut back on your spending, save as much as you can, and then invest when it is a good time to invest that extra excess money that you have saved into things that are important. Like, maybe if you have a beater car like Madeline had, maybe it's time to get rid of it if it's breaking down and costing you more than another used car that is better. Like there are models and makes and better years of used cars. You have to do your research though. That's the only thing, is that you can't just like be like, all Toyotas are good, right? Because I heard that. No, you have to actually like narrow it down to like this year, this make, this model. Are there any recalls? Check that Carfax, etc., etc. What is it called? See if and if it's like a private sale, take it to like a mechanic. Be like, hey, guy, can you meet me at the mechanic shop so my mechanic can take a look at it? I mean, those are things you just have to kind of do. There are things that you need to work at to survive capitalism, as the book suggests. You know,
yeah.
that's why I'm
And
like,
I
this is required reading.
and I think there are a lot of good takeaways from the book and important information that everybody could use. But I also think it's important to remember that you can't budget your way out of poverty.
That's true. Yeah, if
You do the best that you can with what you have. But that's what I was saying earlier. I don't tend to like, for example, when it comes to like medical bills, I know people that have $50,000, $60,000 in medical bills, and they say pretty clearly they're not going to pay them. Quite
Mhm.
frankly, don't give a fuck. And like when people are like, yeah, but that's driving up our healthcare costs. I'm not going to blame
Yeah,
somebody who's working every single day to try to get by for a medical system that they didn't create
right,
and they have to use.
right. They were born into it.
Exactly. Like the idea that there's people that have health insurance that pay what hundreds of dollars a month for their health insurance, and then they're just told that, hey, you have cancer, nothing's covered. but you paid hundreds of dollars a month for years. And a lot of people don't even go to the doctor for years.
Yeah.
And then they're not covered, right?
Yeah.
Or they
I
have a high deductible plan.
I mean, I think insurance is a scam to begin with.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Um, I already pay monthly for my health insurance. Why am I then having to pay more on top of that for a doctor to see me for 15 minutes and be like, "Oh, well, have
Yeah.
you tried like losing weight?" Look, that
Ooh.
shit to me is
Answers.
so
You're either fat or you're a woman.
yeah.
What
And
what and add an asterisk to that because also most health in general is targeted toward men. So men usually have a better time at the doctors versus women, unfortunately.
So I had this conversation one time that I knew somebody who needed to get a procedure done on their penis, right?
Mhm.
And mind you, women every single day go in for IUD insertions,
Mhm.
right? It's a very common birth control, and they get nothing. We get nothing for it. They tell you to take some ibuprofen beforehand and hope it kicks in while we shove this thing up your vagina
Also,
into your cervix.
yeah, but also have you seen those documentaries about those IUD or IUD, right? IUD?
mhm,
Yeah,
IUDs about how they can go bad over time, and the FDA
yeah,
knew that. They knew that and still signed off. And these are the
yeah.
fucking I'm telling you, the pressure. It just keeps building. They'll let things slide. They'll let like things like this go until there's an explosion. That's just what it is.
But so I had a friend who needed to go get something done on his penis, and he got not just local anesthetic, but also they were willing to like give him laughing gas because of it.
Really? Ha.
Willing to give him laughing gas to help with the pain. Meanwhile, women get like colposcopies, which is when they're literally taking a chunk of your cervix out of your body, hole punching it out with nothing.
That's
Nothing.
crazy.
No that is barbaric.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, yeah, the aside from men getting the better treatment, there's also racial profiling.
Yes.
People of color do not get very good treatment when they go to the doctor. Yeah, the medical system is pretty fucked up, and we could probably do an entire episode about that. We should find a book that shits on specifically the medical system. I would be fucking down to like
I'm
just
sure there's probably like an amazing book on like Black women in healthcare that
yeah,
I think would probably be a really interesting book to read.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I was watching that documentary about the IUD stuff that goes wrong, that was like seriously wrong, like overgrowths and like people losing their entire reproductive system over them.
Yeah.
It was like it's barbaric. That it literally is barbaric because those risks they were supposed to be assessed properly and they weren't, and they were just written in and just fine, let's just do it and see what happens and whatever the cohort blah blah blah. And it's like this is the kind of stuff that continues to happen on top of the first mistake. There's
Yeah.
one mistake, but then you add more mistakes as you go, and
Yeah.
then
just snowballing.
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, and it's the same thing with like debts and stuff. You snowball those debts, an avalanche. There's like
Yeah.
two terms she used for trying to get rid of the debt. But anyway, so back to the book because we didn't really talk that much. But overall,
Can
okay, like
I think
like
we covered a lot of like pieces of
I
it.
yeah,
Mhm.
I'm gonna say overall in general about the book. We don't have to go into any more of it, right? I mean, you guys kind of feel good about that, or do you want to keep digging into some of the more details?
No, I'm good to move on.
Okay, yeah. So overall, I really enjoyed the book. I think Madeline, like I said, I resonate with her. I think she's a strong character. I definitely didn't have the roots that Madeline had. Like
Yeah.
the street urchin life that she kind of led at first. Her father being a deadbeat, I did have, and still do, and all of that. Her mom being the way her mom is, not really. Yeah, I guess a little bit in my life. My mom's more of the sensible one when it came to money, but at the same time, not really because we never had money. Uh, you know, so. But the financial crisis really did hit me. We had a house, we lost the house, so that kind of resonated with me. Um, but over my father's bad decisions, he got into a predatory loan, which I told him not to. And that was a thing. So there's all that stuff, but overall, when it came down to her starting her business, tunnel vision, um starting, so she had a boyfriend, Drew, that she was madly in love with. I mean, this guy got chapters of of stuff. And unfortunately, capitalism killed him. He wanted, he was an older guy. He felt he needed to be the protector of the people that worked for him, and when he saw himself as a failure within the system, he couldn't, he couldn't take it. He felt devastated. He felt like, I don't know, he betrayed everybody in a way, and he took his own life. And Madeline had to eventually reconcile with that, and kind of let go of Drew. And that was that was a pretty like story about that. But where she came from that was that she wasn't going to fall into the same traps as him, because she had given him a plan. By that point, Madeline was smart with her money, and she basically was like, Drew, you gotta fire some people, you gotta cut back, you gotta do some of this stuff. And he just couldn't let go. He was like, kind of, one tunnel vision. Yeah, tunnel
Yeah.
vision. Huh. Weird. I don't want to go into that. But anyway, um
I think she had tunnel vision before Drew.
before Drew. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
yeah.
It
you're
would
right.
happen kind of parallel before he passed away, but like while they were together, she started tunnel vision.
Yeah, and basically she was, what she was doing with tunnel vision was kind of upscaling vintage clothes and reselling them. And it was doing well, but not that well in the beginning. It really picked up after the pandemic and TikTok, and that exploded. That personality of hers, coupled with what she was able to put out, and then eventually she was creating her own dresses because she couldn't keep up with the vintage stuff in terms of, well, supply. You have no supply, you
Yeah.
can't sell it. And pandemic kind of fucked everybody, in terms of like going to places and picking up stuff. So but once she started with her own, because she's a very intelligent person with really good skills, skill sets that, well, pay the bills, if I, have to say it. um and yeah, and I just felt like a lot of her in the book, and her memoir of how she got to that point and where she is today and how her company is run today is very much how I see my future going forward, in terms of how I would ever treat my coworkers. I would never want to call anybody an employee. We're all coworkers. We're working together. We're working on a symbiotic system to
Yeah.
survive together. We are symbiosis here. So, that's kind of, I'll say this. I doubt Madeline is ever gonna fucking watch this, but if she does, uh, I think you are amazing, and I love that you leave the book with hope. And I understand that you are not looking to do a revolution or anything like that. You were just a person trying to survive, and you're just imparting whatever lessons and experiences you've learned. And that is, that is honestly, uh, a kind of, a kind of love for people that not a lot of people share. And it's beautiful, and I thank you for that, because most people are stuck with like three ideas: invest in real estate, conserve your money in a bank account, or like, they're stuck in those old ways. And this is something that resonates heavily,
Yeah.
with me. So I really thank you for letting other people in on that, because it opens up the idea that more people will want to come in on this, you know, sort of system, versus the old guard and their old ways, because there's plenty of fucking books about that shit, and it's not working, and it's led us to this point in our time. So hopefully more people resonate with that, because I'm kind of tired of the Bitcoin bros and the fucking, just the Jim Cramers of the world, and the fucking stock markets of the world. I'm done. So hopefully more people will feel that kind of passion toward creating something like that, and we could all kind of like fucking coexist, in this fucking planet in a better way. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be dog eat dog. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Well, so what do you when on a go?
My biggest thing is that like I love that this book really had a huge emphasis on community, not just a community based in her business, but the fact that she wanted to build community in her own home. She was terrified of perpetuating gentrification when she moved to LA. She was trying her best to be a strong pillar inside of her community. And I think that that's a big reason that we're struggling now, is that because capitalism forces you to be individualistic. You need to be higher than the person next to you. You're better than them in some kind of way. But in reality, we're all struggling. We're all just trying to get through this system where we can make a decent life for ourselves, where we can coexist among each other and be able to just fucking pay the bills.
Yeah,
Like half of us don't even really want to be doing what we're doing, but we do it because we have to,
yeah,
because mouths need to be fed, because you need a vehicle, because you need a roof over your head. And I really enjoyed that this book focused on community more than just saying, well, Dave Ramsey, don't get into debt. Have a $1,000 emergency fund and call it a day. I don't think that that's really all that supportive of today's life.
uh,
That's kind of where I'm at.
Kalina, how about you?
Yeah, I thought it was a breath of fresh air to read a book about the way the way I feel, the way I talk to my friends about capitalism and money and finances. It was like reading a friend writing it because of
Yeah,
all the similar, and it's a normal person who grew up shitty
yeah,
to then make something for herself. And it was really inspiring to truly see that we don't have to continue to follow what we've been taught and see that it works.
yeah. And overall, like I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to throw this term out, but it's an awakening. It's a bit of an awakening, and I feel like more people are going to resonate with that, and I have that hope that Madeline puts toward the end of the book, where you just have to dream, and just do it, like, if you can. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm good if I have to give it. Well, we give it a star rating, by the way. I'm gonna give it a 5 stars. I'm gonna give it 5 stars because I think the subject matter is important. I think the modern take on the way it was written by a person that is in our age bracket, our age range, helped me resonate with the book way more. Maybe an older person is not gonna get it. But for me personally, I'm gonna give it a 5 stars. I feel like it was a great book, and I would again, I said required reading in schools. So you if I want to teach this book to children, that's got to say something. What about you? When Oh wait, you're muted.
I think it would be interesting to see it in schools. And she had actually had a TikTok where she said she wanted it to surpass Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've never read that book. I
I know
have never reading the
yeah,
book.
I have not.
Don't, don't, don't.
And I would. It's interesting to consider how people would respond to it. It's probably not going to end up in schools because that would be against everything capitalism is trying to instill in children.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I would teach it to my kids though.
What rating would you give it out of 5?
Oh, 5 stars. I got a little bit distracted because my neighbor was saying that he could hear our podcast through the floor.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I
Well,
was like,
oh
can't
no.
Is
can't
it
say
me?
about community if I'm over here pissing off my neighbor at 9:30
Yeah,
at
yeah,
night.
yeah. Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. Yeah, we're wrapping up. We're wrapping up. All right, Kalina, go for it.
Yeah, I would give it a 5 star.
Yeah.
I think it would I don't know about in school because I don't think they'd go for it, but I think it's definitely something late teens, early 20s should
Mhm.
read if you're not, if you haven't been taught finances.
Yeah. Which is highly likely. But I mean, kids today, they are on TikTok all the time, and but there's so much shit on TikTok too. Like I'm saying, Bitcoin Bros and drop
Yeah.
shipping, fucking get rich quick schemes, and there's a lot of predatory shit happening right now. And I feel like voices like Madeline's don't get heard, comparative to
Yeah.
yacht boys. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think it's not being heard because she's selling a dream of we can all just live comfortably,
Right.
where the Bitcoin bros are like, "Oh, you can make millions and you'll never have to work again," and look at all this like lavish the lavish lifestyle I'm living.
Well, that's the thing. She wants that for people, but like realistic
Yes.
realistic lifestyles where there's a community aspect behind it. While those assholes are about themselves. That individualism that comes from, I don't know, being here, I guess in America. America. Uh it's just yeah, it's unfortunately like an overriding factor, especially for younger kids, for everybody who wants to be like TikTok famous or any sort of famous. It's they'll do anything, they'll chase anything to get there. Yeah, it's kind of sad. So hopefully things improve. I feel like once you hit rock bottom, only room to go up. You know. So
I see
okay.
America imploding before that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of rock bottoms, that's for sure, without that this place can hit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you've read Madeline's book, or you follow Madeline, or have any opinions about anything we've said tonight, please leave it in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, tell a friend, share it around. And if you have any recommendations for other books we should read, we're definitely more than open to doing that. Like I said, I'm really down to doing something about the medical system, so we should probably find something about that. That'd be a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully this kind of inspires you a little bit. If you haven't read the book, definitely read the book. Make up your own mind about it, and yeah, maybe you'll, I don't know. Like I said, awaken something in you. I don't know. So yeah, that's all for tonight, guys. Bye.